The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
And it is the Wrestling to the Max Smackdown live review for the Smackdown after WrestleMania. Good evening, afternoon, whenever you're listening, everybody. I am your host here of the Smackdown live review. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, the Ric Flair to my Sting, Brandon Biskobing.
Woo. Ah, damn it. My voice isn't good enough yet to do it yet.
Was awful.
Yes, I know. I can't do a woo right now, damn it.
Woo!
But
there you go.
That's my job. I'm Ric Flair.
That woo was for you.
Fair enough.
All right, so obviously I'm sure you and Cedric probably discussed it a little bit to kick off the Raw review last night. Available in many of the same places you're listening to this SmackDown live review. Mm-hmm. Overall thoughts on WrestleMania, scale of 1 to 10, where did you fall?
I give it a 10. I mean, we talked about it during the preview. We all thought that there was going to be one dud out of the three, and there wasn't. They shocked us and actually gave Seth Rollins a win to kick off Mania, and that was just a great start. Yes, there were a few matches that, in an ideal, face-happy world, they would have gone differently. Cough off Iiconics. But
I picked them.
I know you did. We all did. We all knew it was going to happen. Yeah. Other than that, they hit the mark on the three main matches that they needed to hit on. There were some great surprises. I mean, who ever thought they'd see the Doctor back in the house?
I mean, I kind of want more for Elias than being kind of the whooping boy of the legends that make their appearances.
I'll agree with that, but, I mean, Cedric and I talked about it last night, or yesterday, and we said, he's one of those guys that, with his gimmick, no matter what you do to him, he'll never lose the support of the fans.
He's Teflon.
What?
He's Teflon.
Yep, exactly.
Nothing sticks to him. No, I'm not going to sit here and deny that because you're right, he is. But at the same time, though, this is the second WrestleMania in as many years that Elias has been basically out there in order to be the catalyst for something else to happen. Last year, it was for Cena's interruption to get to Cena Taker. This year, it was for the return of the Doctor of Thugonomics.
But
don't get me wrong.
That
Don't get me. Let me finish it real quick. Don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to the idea of Elias getting to work with the legends, but eventually you're going to have to give Elias something that he can hang his own personal hat on as a WrestleMania moment, rather than just being the secondary party of another person's.
I'll agree with that to an extent, but at the same time, it's like his whole gimmick, especially with him playing in the ring and all of that, it's meant to be interrupted. So you have that ability that is your spot that you can have the legends interrupt him. Or new people in the case of, other times. You can do so much with him.
All right, so you mentioned that you gave it a 10. I wasn't quite that high. This wasn't WrestleMania X7. It was very good in my opinion, though. I gave it an 8 personally. And the reason I say that is because there was a lot of stuff that dragged. Hell, I think Triple H and Batista are still wrestling.
I'll agree with that.
But at the same time, you had those moments. And we talked about this on the Raw Reaction, 11:30 p.m. Eastern every Monday night over on the Chairshot Radio Network. Shill! This felt like an old school WWF WrestleMania in the fact that you got your babyface happy endings that we don't always get to this time of the year. This felt like old school WWF booking where you build to the babyface moment at the big show of the year, and then you actually pay it off with the babyface champion at the big show of the year.
Exactly. That's why I gave it. That's why I made it. That's why I gave it a 10, because you had those 3 moments where not only were they, the babyface moments, which over the last couple of years we haven't gotten. I mean, look at last year, the 2 big, the 2 big moments that should have happened completely flopped because they went the opposite way. But on top of that, they were both, 2 out of the 3 at least, were historic moments.
I mean, I would argue that the Seth moment means just as much to wrestling fans, actual wrestling fans, as the Kofi and the Becky moment does, because of the fact that it finally puts the belt back on a full-timer.
Oh, no. See, that's the thing. The Seth one was the surprise that made the wrestling fans, the smarkier fans, happy, because now we have a fighting champion. The Kofi one was, everything with Kofi and everything that entails. And then the Becky one was, women's main event, and Becky was the one that, they had to put it on.
All right, so I have to ask if you've seen the video, and I'm going to say that if anybody out there listening to this episode has not seen the video, I highly suggest they look it up. Have you seen the video of Shad Gaspard and MVP?
I haven't actually seen the video. I saw like a picture of it, but I haven't actually watched it yet.
All right, if I can find it, I'll send it to you in our.
Oh, I know where it is. I've seen it on. I saw it on Cage Side yesterday.
Well, it's all over Facebook too. If you scroll through your timeline, you're bound to find it. Mm-hmm. That right there is why Kofi needed to win.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because if you can get a genuine reaction from the other boys that have been in the business, imagine the reaction that you got from the fans that were watching Kofi's moment there. Mm-hmm. And you can talk all you want to. People can talk all they want to about Mark Henry, The Rock, Booker T being previous WWF heavyweight champions. They were world champions. Yeah. They were ECW champions. This is the first time that a fully black man has held the longest lineage title in the company. It is a historic moment here. Exactly. And I was admittedly incredibly surprised that they did not do what I feared that they were going to do when we did our predictions last week here on the show. And I said that they were probably going to Christian Kofi Kingston by having him drop the belt tonight. On last night, technically. We're recording this on Wednesday for the purpose of those wondering.
I was so fearful that they were going to do just that
with
on
the Seth
Monday
match on Raw.
With the match against Seth.
I thought if that match went to a finish, Seth
it would have been Seth winning, hands down.
Yeah.
But they at least somewhat made the right choice on that match. I give all my thoughts on that on the Raw review yesterday.
And where can people listen to that Raw review at, Brandon?
On the W2M Network, available
online
everywhere.
At W2M.com.
Yes, and on all your podcasting services.
We'll get to those a little bit later on in the show. So let's get to the reason that we're actually here. Let's talk SmackDown, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. In addition, you want to, in order to make this easier for both of us, and the fact of the matter is it was the 205 Live after Mania. 205 Live is not getting its own show back, at least not immediately here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to discuss the 2 matches from 205 Live as well?
We can talk about those 2 matches as well at the end.
Yeah, we'll do those at the end. We'll wrap up SmackDown, and then we'll do a quick recap of 205 Live at the end as well.
I mean, at this point, especially with how 205 Live has been, we can basically just do that as like a little, afterwards for SmackDown. Because they always only have like 2 matches at most.
It's a 205 Live mini review coming a little bit later on in the show. All right, so we open with the New Day celebration with Kofi Kingston to celebrate the fact that Kofi did win the title on Sunday at WrestleMania. Big E and Xavier are going out of their way to put over what Kofi meant and what this moment means for everybody in the company. They are then interrupted by the Bar once again, Cesaro and Sheamus. And Cesaro and Sheamus challenge the New Day to a 6-man tag match for later on in the show. Big E points out that their math is a little off because there are 3 members of New Day and only 2 members of the Bar. the Bar points out that they made a friend while they were over at Raw, and that friend's name is Drew McIntyre, setting us up for our main event a little bit later on in the show. Do you want to just keep the match together with the opening, or do you want to just go in chronological here, Brandon?
We'll just go chronological. I mean, the match, there's not much to talk about the match, but we'll talk about it later. In terms of this, I wish that, like, I get why they did it to an extent, but I would, and I said this on the Raw review, Drew should have been the one to interfere, to set up a match with either one of them, and you could have done based on where he goes next week. Have that set up a title feud with him and either Seth or Kofi for the title.
I would agree with that to an extent, except for the fact that Drew lost at WrestleMania. Therefore, booking-wise, that would mean that he wouldn't be in contendership for the title.
They've done it before. Cough, cough, Roman.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but at the same time, to me, this is one of those philosophies where wins and losses matter. It's the same reason I would have had Randy Orton beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania, especially knowing what we knew with Kofi getting the babyface title win. That gets set up Orton as an immediate heel challenger for Kofi.
True, but I mean, we all know that in WWE, wins and losses don't matter.
Sadly, you're not wrong. All right, that takes us to a 6-man tag team match to open the show as Aleister Black, Ricochet, and Ali. My question is, how long until he's just Aleister?
Or just Black.
That's racist, sir.
I mean, would it surprise you if Vince did it?
Because you can't really trademark that.
But you can't really, I mean, and people have said this before about Ali. They talk about SEOs, like, you can't really search Ali and have Mustafa pop up automatically.
Aleister Black, Ricochet, and Ali team up to take on the team of Andrade, Rusev, and Nakamura. Can I just state for the record that I would be perfectly okay with these 6 men as the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match?
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
The match itself goes approximately 6 minutes just because it's the SmackDown after Mania. Nothing's going to get a ton of time here. He is no longer Mustafa. He has lost his Mustafa.
I still need to, like, make a big name of all of the names lost and just, like, make a meme of, like this amorphized version of a wrestler.
You know what you could technically do? You could do, like, the Cleveland Browns quarterback jersey just with different wrestler names. Never mind. It combines both our loves of wrestling and football. The kickoff every Wednesday night here on the W2M Network. Shoo! Anyway. Ali picks up the victory as he hits a reverse Rana and then a 450 splash, but not the 054 on Andrade for the win.
So I guess he's going to regular 450 now?
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. To me, the 054 stuck out as a very strong finishing move, whereas the standard 450, while it's visually impressive, you're in the ring with a guy who one-ups that by literally 180 degrees.
I was just about to say, you have someone who does another 180 degrees on his, so that doesn't make sense.
Whereas the 054 is visually impressive with Ali facing away from the ring when he does it. Your thoughts on the match?
The match was good. I mean, all of these guys can work. It'll be interesting to see where they go with all of these. Like you mentioned, we could see them all in the Money in the Bank, but it seems like they're trying to keep both Ricochet and Aleister and Shinsuke and Rusev as a tag team. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like all these guys are kind of in booking limbo right now.
Well, I think Aleister and Ricochet are going to get separated by the Superstar Shakeup. As far as Rusev and Shinsuke go, I don't really see any reason to break them up. Honestly, neither one of them has anything super important that they're doing right now, and the tag team division can always use bodies.
That's true.
Post match, Randy Orton comes out of nowhere. Gee, I wonder where they got that from. To RKO Ali. Whereas Kevin Owens then sneaks in as well and stunners Rusev. Okay, so this is either setting up one of two things. This is setting up Orton versus Owens, and they're just going to constantly sneak in and attack the various people that participate in those matches. Or this is setting up kind of an upper mid-card, lower main event level push for both Rusev and Ali. I'd say the former is more likely. I would not be opposed to the latter, though, because honestly, Rusev's been so over for the last calendar year that, frankly, he deserves more than just being in a tag team match. But they seem to be content in having him in this tag team with Rusev.
Honestly,
with Nakamura, excuse me.
Honestly, and we don't know what's going on if they're gonna have two ladder matches or not for the next pay-per-view. But I could see this being a setup for all four of those guys, Orton, KO, Ali, and Rusev being in the ladder match.
I wouldn't be surprised if they end up doing Raw, SmackDown, and then a women's one, since there's only one women's champion currently.
That's true.
I think that there's not enough women in the division in order to pull off two Money in the Bank ladder matches for the women. Whereas I think between the two brands, you could definitely pull off two ladder matches.
Oh,
one
definitely.
for SmackDown.
Definitely. So yeah,
Usos,
I could see those four being in the SmackDown one, or depending upon where they end up next week.
Usos are interviewed backstage to talk about their match with the Hardy Boys a little bit later on in the episode. Originally, this was supposed to be the SmackDown WrestleMania Tag Team title match. Not sure why that got changed and the Hardys got moved to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
I think probably just to add more bodies.
It did give the opportunity for the Usos to pick up their first main roster victory at a WrestleMania, which was a nice moment for them. R-Truth and Carmella are here. R-Truth points out that Carmella defeated Andre the Giant in the Royal Rumble, which admittedly made me laugh.
Oh, yes.
It's the little things. Carmella talks about the fact that it was 1 year ago that she was cashing in her Money in the Bank contract in order to win the SmackDown Women's title. She cashed in on the SmackDown After Mania last year after Charlotte beat Asuka. This year, though, she may not be in the title picture at present, but she's gained a friend in Truth, and she looked kind of sinister when she said that. I was half expecting her to turn on Truth here. Instead, Samoa Joe arrives, and Samoa Joe's going to kill you. He chokes out Truth in approximately the same amount of time it took him to choke out Ray at WrestleMania. Joe points out that what he did to Truth and what he did to Ray is what he's going to do to everybody that gets in his path, bringing Braun Strowman to the ring. Okay, the McIntyre thing I can get. I'm behind it because McIntyre, Sheamus, Cesaro, all foreigners, they would all grow up together. There's actually the video that came out a while back when they were on one of their USO tours of the three of them playing soccer together. Like, I get McIntyre showing up on SmackDown. This made zero freaking sense to me, unless it's a tease that Strowman's leaving Raw and coming over to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup.
Tori keeps on saying it. I don't want to believe it. I don't think any of us want to believe it. I hope I'm wrong, but the writing's on the wall. I have a feeling this is the beginning of the end.
I disagree, and Andrew and I kind of talked about this on the Raw reaction. The cross-pollination of the two brands on these episodes of Raw and SmackDown, as well as next week's Raw and SmackDown, makes sense because they're all in the same location. Now, if they're still having everybody cross-pollinate once they're not in the same locations for Raw and SmackDown, then I will have an issue, and then I will suspect that it's the beginning of the end for the brand split.
I'll give you that.
Because both Raw and SmackDown were in Brooklyn this week. Both Raw and SmackDown are in Montreal next week. Your thoughts on the battle between Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman? Do you have any interest in a one-on-one match between them for the U.S. title?
I'd be cool with seeing it, as long as, Braun actually wins and stops being a joke. But, we'll see.
I would be rooting for Samoa Joe in that match.
I mean, I'd be fine with Joe retaining as long, but see, here's the thing. Think about 2 years ago, this time, Braun was like one of the hottest commodities, and now he's a joke.
I wouldn't say he's a joke. I would say that he's definitely not at the level that he was before, but I think a lot of that is Braun's own doing, though. Sometimes Braun Strowman's biggest enemy is Braun Strowman.
If the rumors are true, I'll agree with you. But it's just amazing how he looked like he could be the new top guy, and to see how far he's fallen.
Once again, we get the same creepy mini dinosaur bird skeleton gimmick inside of the box video package that we saw on Monday Night Raw. One assumes this is the lead up for the return of Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
My question is do we care?
No, because he's a joke now.
They haven't given us a reason to care about Bray Wyatt.
You can't. I've said so many times over the last 3 or 4 years, but you can't have a character like that where he talks about being a god and then he loses all the time, because then the character just falls flat.
All right, let's step on this a little bit here. We have new women's tag team champions.
Go ahead.
And they end up getting a squash match here, which I'm fine with here. You had the competitive 4-way match. You had the sneaky pinfall victory there for the Iconics in that match when I believe it was Billie Kay stole Beth Phoenix's thunder off of the Super Glam Slam to Bayley here. We actually see a double team finish for the Iconics as a wheelbarrow knee strike combo by Billie Kay and Peyton Royce put away Kristen and Carissa Boots and Tights, as Larry Zonka refers to them in the 411 Mania SmackDown Live review. Their actuality is Chris Stradlander and Carissa Rivera. Rivera has appeared on NXT TV before. Stradlander is one of the, if not the fastest rising females in the independent scene, despite the fact that she's only been wrestling now for about a year and a half. Paige backstage teases that she's going to have a new team to challenge the Iconics next week. I'm seeing a lot of speculation as to who this is going to be. I'm going to make my official prediction here. I think that it's bound time, especially with Shayna Baszler retaining the NXT Women's title. I would not be surprised if Paige is talking about Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, the Sky Pirates.
That was my thought as well. Either that or the only reason why I say this is because of where Paige is from. How far along is Dakota to coming back?
Dakota was gone. Dakota's out for, I think she's out for another couple of months still.
Oh, okay. Then because I was thinking it was going to be Team Kick.
Isn't Nixon Newell out still too?
Oh, is she? Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I forget. I think it's Tegan Knox is her name in the WWE.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Nixon Newell isn't cleared to compete either.
Then if that's the case, then it's definitely going to be Sky Pirates. I just don't see who else it could be.
I would also not be opposed to reuniting Paige with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
But they're already on. Wait, no, they're on. They're on SmackDown. No, they're on SmackDown still. So that
so yeah, I guess that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
That wouldn't really make much sense because it wasn't like she was saying she's revealing someone.
Very well. Shane McMahon interviewed to discuss the fact that he defeated The Miz at WrestleMania in order to remain the best in the world and I guess keep possession of the trophy, even though it wasn't explicitly stated as such. The trophy was in the ring when Shane was in there. Shane very quickly shuts down the CM Punk chants, which I thought was nice, and then orders Greg Hamilton to redo his introduction, grabbing him by the tie until he does so. Somewhere Daniel Bryan is wondering, didn't I get fired for this?
Oh, it's a McMahon. He can get away with it.
What did you think of the segment?
I felt it was a little too drawn out. I get what they're trying to do with this, making Shane even more and more of a heel. But I think they could have done it in a much more succinct way.
I'll agree with that. I thought it was a good segment, but it did come off a little long. That being said, I actually really enjoyed the Miz and Shane match at WrestleMania. I thought for the kind of match they did a really good job of it. That golf cart bump that Shane took was stupid, and I don't want to see him doing that again.
Well, you kind of hit your prediction right, where Miz went for high risk and it cost him.
I said that if Shane is going to win, I would have it where he goes for a high risk move and it comes back to bite him. That's the exact story that ended up playing out. I picked Miz to win the match.
Yeah.
But I said that if Shane is going to win here, you could have this as a story of Miz goes for one too many high-risk moves and it comes back to bite him. And that's almost exactly what happened as the superplex off of the camera stage through the crash pad ended up seeing Shane land on top. And I thought that was very well done.
Oh, yeah.
Because it made complete storyline sense to me for Miz to be out of his element going for a high-risk maneuver, whereas that's the exact kind of offense that Shane is used to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The SmackDown Tag Team titles are on the line in a match scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
I'm rusty. It's been a while since we've done this.
I mean, I think that was only the second match that we could actually do that for now.
Technically, it was the third because there was the 6-man and then the women's tag team title match.
Yeah, but that match didn't count.
Anyway, Usos defending against the Hardys. And we have new SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions when Matt and Jeff Hardy win the titles. Twist of Fate off of the miss of the double loose. And Jeff Hardy hits the Swanton on, I think, Jimmy. I'm not sure, but I think Jimmy. Giving us new Tag Team Champions for the 8th time in their careers, Matt and Jeff Hardy. All right, so the obvious question here is, where do you go from here with the Hardy Boys?
I think they'll retain, or they'll hold on to them for a little while, and then depending upon where teams go, during the Superstar Shakeup and whatnot, I have a feeling they'll probably put over a newer team.
Is it weird that I kind of want to see them drop the belts to Rusev and Nakamura?
I mean, you could do that.
I know we prefer Rusev and Nakamura as singles acts, but the fact is that the tag team is gelling together pretty well.
You know who I would,
despite the fact that logically they shouldn't be a tag team because of the fact that they were feuding over Rusev, Nakamura injuring Lana. That's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, we've seen that before, like the Bar.
I know who I think you're going to choose. I think you're going to choose Sanity.
Yep. That's exactly who I was going to say. I have a feeling it's a pipe dream, but I would love to see them put over Sanity and finally get Sanity a push.
We've been doing this show long enough that I kind of figured that one out. What did you think of the match itself?
The match was good. I liked it. These four can definitely go. These are...
I would have liked it to have been a little bit longer. I think that some of the time that they had for that Miz or for that Shane McMahon interview, if you would have cut a few moments from that Shane interview and given it to these two, it would have been an even better match.
Agreed.
These two teams.
Agreed.
But all told, I thought the match told a very good story of the Usos trying to out Hardy Boys the Hardy Boys.
Mm-hmm. You know what I would love to see? And maybe you could do it down the line. You wouldn't... Well, actually, you could, in theory, set it up for SummerSlam later down the line. I would love to see these four in a ladder match.
I would worry about Matt's health.
True.
Just because he's coming back from back fusion.
True.
Post-match, Lars Sullivan comes out and beats the Hardy Boys' ass. Because of course he does. Okay. I'm cool with Lars being on the main roster. I'm actually a fan of Lars. I think that despite the generic big guy look that he has, he's actually deceptively agile for what he does. I was okay with him laying out Kurt Angle on Monday Night Raw because that's making a statement at the expense of a guy who is there now to work with the younger talent as a producer, as an agent, and as an occasional on-screen performer. It was great for Lars that he was able to stand tall here. I think it hurts the Hardys, but it doesn't kill the Hardys just because they're coming off of a relatively grueling match here. My question is do you give Lars Sullivan a tag team partner to go after the Hardys? And if you do, why? Sullivan's always been portrayed as kind of a loner.
No, I don't think you do. I think this is one of those Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns type moments where it's Vince trying to show that this guy is so big, so powerful that he can even take two guys down at once.
So basically what you're telling me is your tag division.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, this is Vince McMahon we're talking about.
Becky Lynch interview up next. I'd talk about it, but frankly, there's not a whole lot to discuss that she didn't say. Including the interaction with Lacey Evans at the end. Although this time, at least, Becky sells the women's right.
Mm-hmm. I say it on Raw. I'll say it again. I have a feeling this is going to fall flat on its face.
I don't dislike Lacey Evans, but I'm not a fan either. I'm not sold.
Well, not only... Go ahead.
I didn't see enough from her in NXT for me to justify her being in the level that she's at on the main roster. I feel like there are other women in the NXT women's division who could be fulfilling this role. Honestly, this should be Shayna Baszler's spot, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that, especially considering the feud between Becky and Ronda. But not only that, but even just playing off of what she's done on the main roster, I use this comparison on Raw, and I'll use it again here. This reminds me a lot of Jinder Mahal, where out of nowhere, she's getting a title shot. Why?
More importantly, is it going to be one of those situations where it's for both belts? Is it going to be for one belt? Or are we going to have Becky pull a Seth Rollins where she has to defend both titles at a pay-per-view coming up?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how is this going to work? We haven't gotten any information on how this is going to work yet.
I guess we're going to have to wait and figure out where everybody ends up in the Superstar Shakeup to determine what titles these people can challenge for. Because I'd assume that we'll finally get these NXT talents that have been kind of floating between the two shows settled on one brand or the other once the Superstar Shakeup occurs.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn arrives and then just as quickly leaves. Thanks, Sami. Welcome back. Your main event is a 6-man tag scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
As the New Day takes on Sheamus, Cesaro, and for at least about the first third of it, Drew McIntyre. All right, so the match came off kind of clunky to me, and I think there's a very specific reason why it came off clunky. I want to address something real quick here. I hope that McIntyre is okay. Report.
You there?
It's not anything more serious than just maybe a Charlie horse or something.
You cut out entirely there, so say that again.
I said reports are that when McIntyre tagged out, he limped his way backstage and did not return for the rest of the match, which is why it came off kind of clunky as it did. Hopefully McIntyre is okay, because I got a feeling that him going over to SmackDown would be the sign of a major singles push, and I'm hoping that a fluke injury isn't going to cost him that, because I think we're all ready for Drew McIntyre main eventer in WWE.
Definitely.
The match itself sees Kofi Kingston pin Sheamus with Trouble in Paradise. The fans honestly don't give that strong of a reaction, but in fairness, they've just sat through 4 days of wrestling in a Hall of Fame, so they're probably as tired as the performers were.
Mm-hmm. Or 5 days of wrestling.
Well, I mean, depending on what they did on Saturday night.
Yep.
Me personally, I was with the girlfriend. I did not watch any wrestling on Saturday night. She did watch NXT TakeOver and WrestleMania with me, though, so credit to her.
We went all 5 days.
You better wife that woman, dude. Just saying.
She hasn't watched as much New Japan, but she likes certain people, so, like... And she was happy to know, although most wrestling fans are not happy of what transpired at G1.
Something about the tallest distraction in the room.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, we won't go into specifics here because honestly, I don't dislike Cass, but that other guy.
The rumor is that they signed.
The rumor is that ROH's management had a lot to do with that because Delirious wanted nothing to do with it. That officially wraps up SmackDown. We go off the air as Kofi celebrates with his wife and his kids, once again, similar to how they did at WrestleMania. I was waiting for Big E to turn on Kofi. It did not happen.
I didn't think it was going to happen.
Disappointed and partly happy about that.
Yeah.
That being said, you know who I think came out of this weekend the biggest star?
Who?
Big E.
Why you say? Oh, because of the splits.
The splits, not to mention the show-stealing performance at the Hall of Fame. Just in general, too. I think he is a superstar waiting to happen.
Oh, definitely. We'll see how they do it because, I mean, I've always said it, and I know they've teased it throughout the years. And knowing how Vince is, I have a feeling it's going to happen, but New Day always felt like that one team that were going to be lifers.
The New Day celebration with Kofi, his wife, and his kids ends up wrapping us up for SmackDown and completing this episode. Scale of 1 to 10, Brandon, where do you fall?
I'll give it a 7. It hit most of the marks. I thought it was better than Raw, definitely. It was an overall good show. Nothing too crazy. This Raw and SmackDown, for them being, the Raw and SmackDown after Mania, were a little diluted to me. But, all in all, decent shows. One thing I'm going to say real quick, and I really hope you agree with me. I want to see, even if it's just, something quick, even if it's, I don't know how they do it. And I know this is kind of a TNA type thing to do. But I want to see that. I want to see his one kid against Maxwell.
Oh, Jesus.
That kid just has the, I really hope he becomes a wrestler.
Let's not book 7-year-olds in matches, Brandon. Or 4-year-olds, I think, in Max. I think Max was 4.
Oh.
Yeah, let's leave the child labor laws alone here, Bisco, shall we?
Fair enough.
Jesus. I'm right there with you at a 7. I thought it was slightly better than Raw. I gave Raw a 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
SmackDown definitely knows its audience a lot better than Raw does. It usually focuses on the in-ring content. We did get 4 matches here. Granted, one of them was a squash, and the other was a 6-man tag match that did not get a ton of time. But I think the main event kind of hampered this episode of SmackDown just a little bit, just due to the McIntyre injury. I feel like there was a better story to be told there. And honestly, if I had the book here, and I don't, and I'm not saying I would want it, but if I had it, I would almost think that I would be inclined to have McIntyre pin Kofi.
Oh, definitely. If Kofi
just to set up a future title match if McIntyre were coming over to SmackDown.
Well, I think I would have done it a little differently. I think I would have done it kind of like how they did it on Raw, or not on Raw, but yes, on Raw, but with Gable and Rude, where I would have had Kofi win to have the feel good moment to finish the weekend, but then I would have had Drew beat him down after the fact to set up a potential feud moving forward.
So have Kofi pin Sheamus like they did, but instead of going off the air with Kofi celebrating, go off the air with McIntyre giving Kofi a Claymore?
Exactly, and then holding the title up.
So I wouldn't have been surprised if that may have been the plan before McIntyre got hurt.
True. Very true.
I'd assume, because, I don't know, the second part of this match came off kind of clunky to me, and I think McIntyre getting hurt was part of the reason why.
Yeah, I'm sure they had to switch things up on the fly.
One-word review for SmackDown.
I'll say solid. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too crazy, but a good solid show to finish the week.
Much the same way as the War Raiders finish, I'm going to go with Fallout. We got everything that we needed to do to hit the highlights of WrestleMania and get us ready for the Superstar Shakeup next week.
Yep.
All right. It is now time for the 205 Live Quickie Review here. Our opening contest, scheduled for one fall, is Humberto Carrillo and the gentleman Jack Gallagher. They go approximately 10 minutes when Drew Gulak gets involved for the disqualification finish, shoving Carrillo while he's on the top rope. Gulak goes to whoop Carrillo's ass afterwards and is stopped and then headbutted by Gallagher, thus turning Gentleman Jack babyface once again. I worry that this could be the end of Gulak on 205 Live, and here's the reason I say that. Because they seem to be positioning him that he no longer has any allies on 205 Live, and they could move him to a different show. The problem is I don't think he stands out as much on a different show as he does on 205 Live, and I think 205 Live is the perfect place for him to be able to showcase not only his technical mastery, but also his ability to handle his character.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of his character is he is the anti-cruiserweight. So moving him onto the main roster, he'd just get lost in the shuffle because he's just another guy. Like, then instead of being the anti-cruiserweight, he's the cruiserweight who doesn't do cruiserweight things, and he's just gonna get lost in the shuffle. So,
what did you think of the match itself?
I mean, the match itself was fine. It was kind of it was interesting how they handled it with Gallagher and everything. Especially with what you just said. I don't think you call him up because you have that feud set up right now where, I mean, Drew could in theory go find someone. He could go grab Buddy Murphy because Buddy Murphy isn't doing anything now. I'm sure there are some other guys that you could bring in Oney Lorcan to be in that spot. I think you have a pre-built feud between Drew and someone and Carrillo and Gallagher at this point, so I think it's a little too soon to do anything with Drew.
We get promos backstage from both Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy, setting us up for a WrestleMania title rematch to occur just slightly later on in the show. But before we do that, we get the official announcement and backstage interaction between Oney Lorcan and Cedric Alexander to set up a match between the two on next week's 205 Live. I would not be surprised if that's Cedric Alexander's last match on 205 Live, because I do think, much the same way Mustafa Ali moved over to SmackDown, I think that they have bigger and better plans for Cedric, and they don't involve him staying on 205 Live much longer.
That I could see. That I could definitely see.
Your main event, scheduled for one fall, is a Cruiserweight title rematch as Tony Nese now defends against Buddy Murphy. They go approximately 17 minutes, I think. Oh, no, it's even more. Wow.
Yeah, it was a long match.
According to Larry, they went 20. I didn't think it was quite to 20, but it may have been close. It felt closer to 17 or 18 to me, but they packed a lot into this match.
Mm-hmm.
I might argue they packed a little too much into it for a burnt-out post-WrestleMania crowd, but the match itself was really good.
Well, I think that they might have tried to pack a little bit too much, but I think that was the point where it was, let's go all out for this main event because this is the last wrestling of the weekend. So they were going to give the crowd a show.
And I think that was probably something that Tony and Buddy discussed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Of they put us on first at WrestleMania. We now get to close the week. Let's show them what we're capable of.
Exactly.
Which I'm okay with to an extent. I do think, though, it comes off a little too much. There were a lot of kickouts in this match that I don't necessarily agree with. Murphy's Law is not a move that should be getting kicked out of on 205 Live. That's a move that you could rescue with a foot on the rope. I'd have been okay with that. I don't like the straight kick out. I do like the new variation of the running niche though, with the bicycle right before it lands though.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it looks much more devastating than just the standard variation because you're actually driving force into the knee in order to hit it. That is how the champion retains to keep the title, and the belief is send Buddy Murphy elsewhere in the WWE, possibly to SmackDown Live.
The only thing about that, and I know we've got the shakeup and everything, and we're assuming that all 5 brands are going to be involved. But the thing about it with, you can't really call too many people up from 205 because then what do you have left in 205? Unless you're just going to completely destroy it.
Well, you can restock the roster with guys from NXT that could still work NXT as well, similar to the Oni Lorcan situation.
That's true, but who do you really have in NXT that is at that 205 level?
The immediate name that springs to mind for me for 205 Live is Albert Hardy Jr.
I haven't seen any of his stuff, so.
Do you know the name ACH?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
He's going by his real name in the WWE right now.
Oh,
Albert
okay.
Hardy.
He's not going to be
That's
ACH anymore.
ACH.
Oh, okay.
I think he would be somebody who you don't necessarily need to use in NXT.
Now,
you could have him just come up to the 205 Live show.
One name that would be cool, at least for the time being, but I highly doubt that he goes here, just because that was the whole reason why he left to begin with, is Kushida.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them try to use Kushida as kind of the face, although he definitely seems like he's going to be making a stopover in NXT first, with him being teased from TakeOver New York on Friday night.
Yeah, but like I said, the whole reason why he left New Japan in the first place is because he was stuck in the juniors, so why would he come to WWE just to be back there? So,
realistically speaking, and I almost hate to say this because I feel like 205 Live might be a kiss of death when it comes to the main roster. You know who I could see on 205 Live in their entirety?
Who?
Undisputed Era.
That would be that would be interesting just because we've never seen faction. Well, except for that one faction.
Yeah, with that guy whose name we don't mention. How you doing?
Yes.
That guy.
Yes, that guy.
F that guy. Seriously, F off, Enzo. No one cares.
You're lucky you don't watch Ring of Honor then.
Oh, no, I know what happened. I read about it. I believe that wraps us up for WrestleMania, the post-WrestleMania 205 Live here.
Yep.
We won't one-word review because this is just a mini review, but I will have you give a scale of 1 to 10 score here. What did you think of this episode?
I'll give it a 7.5. It set up a lot of things. Great main event. And it hit all the marks I needed to hit, and a pretty crazy swerve.
I'm just a touch higher than you at an 8. I think that Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy had a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they did a little bit too much for a blown out post WrestleMania crowd, but at the same time, they were definitely getting the response that they were hoping for. So obviously it worked, similar to how they had the match on the pre-show at WrestleMania, and the crowd was silent when they started, but then into all the near falls on the pre-show by the time the match came to a close at WrestleMania. The biggest development for me here is the re-baby facing of Jack Gallagher, because I feel like Gallagher and Gulak could be a lot of fun against each other on 205 Live. They both stay there. And they had a really good match against each other with the WWE UK tournament as well. The UK CT number 2, if you recall, when Gallagher was in that.
I did not watch that. I need to catch up on UK.
Well, that wasn't an actual UK CT match, though. It was a qualifier for
UK.
Okay. And Gallagher beat Gulak in that match, and it was a really good match that went back and forth for like 10 minutes.
I think I do actually remember that, because was that on NXT proper?
It may have been on NXT proper. I seem to recall it being posted on the YouTube channel, which is where I watched it. So if this is going to lead us to more interactions between Gallagher and Gulak, schooling everybody in the WWE on the mat, then hey, I'm all for watching.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, same here.
That's going to officially wrap us up for the first post-WrestleMania edition of SmackDown Live here on the W2M Network, online at W2Mnet.com. He's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Harry Broadhurst. This has been the Wrestling to the Max SmackDown Live review here on the W2M Network, available online at W2Mnet.com, as well as on all your favorite podcast listening devices, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Castbox. Hey, Brandon, guess what?
Spotify is here.
And Glacier's a dick. Thanks for listening, everybody. You can check us out here on SmackDown Live and when we return with the kickoff for our NFL draft preview on April 24th as well. We'll talk to you guys next week here on the SmackDown Live review for the Wrestling to the Max and the W2M Network.